We're now in a place where over half of the population they're serving are eating out more than once a week. It's no more so than in Asia, where you have 9% of people that are eating out daily. Economies such as Hong Kong, Taiwan, Malaysia, Thailand, Morocco at the very upper index of that, where on average a quarter of people are eating out more than once a day. So what we eat out matters, and that means that if you run a food business that is serving people every day, what you do and the sort of quick little choices you make in the kind of scramble of your day-to-day opening up, serving and closing down have a huge, huge impact. So I guess that's what we do. We work with food businesses of all kinds. They could be cafes and train stations. They could be high-end Michelin-star restaurants with white tablecloths. They could be the place you eat in your workplace. They could be the food you have for dinner in the local pub. Could be a cafe. And we work with those guys essentially to sort of talk about two big things. The first is, how can you do less bad in a way? So when you think about kind of operationally, how can you waste less food? How can you be more energy efficient? How can you put the right kit in? How can you, I guess, put the right staff practices in, be it training or contracts, to, I guess, chip away at the margins and be a kind of efficient food business. And there's a tremendous amount of operational impact that can achieve. The kind of variance between a kind of inefficient food business and an efficient one, even just getting in the upper quartile, not doing anything completely disruptive, can achieve huge things for the planet and huge things for human health. So I guess what we do is we try to make sure that one person's "I did that last week" isn't another person's "impossible," and trying to find ways of collaborating for those businesses around kind of energy, water, waste. We do that through our framework. We have kind of 10 key areas, 10 things that we say a good restaurant will do, from, I guess, kind of valuing natural resources to reduce, reuse, recycle, to not wasting food, to serving more veg and better meat, to sourcing fish responsibly, serving local and seasonal food, supporting global farmers, feeding people well, treating staff well, and supporting the community. There are sort of 10 commandments without Moses that we kind of ask restaurants to kind of get involved with and work out what that means for them. I think the second very brief thing is that restaurants can do more than less bad operationally. Like chefs, as Paul touched on, have a real capacity to inspire. The food system follows what chefs do, and there's a trickle-down effect. You know, why are we all eating salted caramel, avocados, and pulled pork? It's because, I guess, on some level, some influential chefs start doing that, and then other people look to that and start copying. You know, one of the reasons there's so few fish in the sea is that kind of in the early 70s, some American chefs went over to Japan, saw sushi, brought it back to New York, and 40 years later it's in a Morrison's meal deal. So I think we have a tremendous opportunity for restaurants to do more than just less bad operationally, but to kind of influence and guide. And that's why we connect with Paul and the Chef's Manifesto work.
Great. I'd like to come back to some of your 10 commandments later. So I'm glad that you moved on from doing less bad. We were talking about difficulties in defining sustainability at different scales and sizes of restaurants earlier, and you used the word restorative. Can you just remind us what you mean by restorative? Because I thought you had a really good definition of that.
Sure, thanks. I'll try not to disappoint. I guess we tried not to get too lost in the details on it, right? There's a lot to think about if you're running a food business. There's the people, there's the planet, there's the sourcing, there's the animal welfare, there's the carbon. I think what we try to hold in our heads and help food business owners with is that because you exist as a business, there's a piece of land where your food's grown that's in a better place than it would have been if your business didn't open that morning. And there's people all along the value chain that are in a kind of healthier, more secure place because you opened your door that morning. And that's a kind of big thing to do and unpack, but that's our kind of destination that we try to help food service businesses, I guess, set the level of ambition correctly around what we mean by sustainable restaurant.